Before we get to today's show, I wanted to share a quick reminder that being financially organized is one of the biggest factors in building wealth. Want to be a millionaire? It's not going to happen if you're not organized with your money. So, how can you get organized? Well, our favorite app is Empower. It's free, allows you to connect your banks and brokers, and it gives you daily income and expense updates. Ready to try it out? You can sign up at thecollegeinvestor.com/empowermoney. Hey there, welcome to the College Investor Audio Show. Hope it's been an amazing day so far, and we're so honored that you chose to listen to the show and to hang out with us today. As we take a look at this article, Education Department will cut federal loans from low-earning college programs. Very interesting. Let's dive in. Well, but first, just a quick reminder, anytime you hear a podcast, you can always dive deeper into the subject at thecollegeinvestor.com. There's an article right along with the podcast, and like and subscribe and follow and post, I don't know, whatever you do on social media. Just type in the words The College Investor. You'll find us. We love to connect with you there as well. So the U.S. Department of Education, back in the news again. Shocking. Announced a final rule that will, for the first time, strip federal student loan eligibility from college and career programs whose graduates fail to out-earn workers who never enrolled. At first glance, there might be a little bit of panic, like, huh? But hear me out. The Student Tuition and Transparency System, or STATS, and Earnings Accountability Rule applies a single standard across every sector of higher education, from public universities to even for-profit certificate schools, regardless of an institution's tax status or the credential it awards. The premise is simple. Undergrad programs must demonstrate that their graduates earn more than working adults who hold only a high school diploma. It kind of makes sense. Graduate programs must show their completers earn more than typical bachelor's degree holders. A degree that can't clear that bar for 2 or 3 years will lose the ability to enroll students who borrow federal loans. That doesn't mean it has to shut down, though. But the government is not going to continue to lend to students who end up having a bad financial outcome. So here's a quote from Nicholas Kent, the Undersecretary of Education. If a program cannot show that it leaves its graduates financially better off than if they had never enrolled, it should not be underwritten by federal taxpayers. He pointed to rising rates of default and delinquency in the $1.7 trillion federal student loan portfolio. Nuts. And that's kind of the backdrop for the new framework here. So the rule is the third and final rulemaking package authorized by the OBBBA, One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which President Trump signed on July 4th, 2025. It also folds the new earnings standard into the department's existing financial value, transparency, and gainful employment regulations, replacing what officials described as nearly 2 decades of regulatory back and forth with one test that reaches almost every program and sector. Here's how the earnings test actually works. The test, which is the most important part of this whole thing, is calculated annually, using the median annual earnings of a program's completers, measured 4 years after they finish. Those earnings get compared against kind of a benchmark tied to workers aged 25 to 34. So for undergraduate programs, the comparison is the median earnings of someone that age with only a high school diploma, drawn either from the institution's state or the national figure, depending on where its students come from. For graduate programs, the benchmark is a young worker with only a bachelor's degree. The department will run its first calculation in early 2027, covering the 2027-2028 academic year. A program that fails in both 2027 and 28 could be labeled a low-earning outcome program starting in the 28-29 award year, at which point it loses direct loan eligibility unless it wins an appeal. Again, the 28-29 academic year is the first year any college could lose access to federal student loans under this new final rule. Some programs actually do get a small break. The final rule added several carve-outs after the department reviewed nearly 10,000 public comments, goodness me, from the preliminary rule. Institutions that exclusively serve students with documented disabilities are exempt from the program eligibility consequences altogether, which is very, very good. Certain career programs also get a reprieve, like fields where most workers earn tipped income, cosmetology, barbering, massage therapy, those types of things, are going to see at least a 1-year delay so that earnings data reflects the Act's no tax on tips policy, which starts with the 2026 tax year. During the delay, these programs are neither passed nor failed, though the department will still publish their earnings data. This was feedback we even saw in our own comments, when discussing the proposed rules. You can actually go back to that article too at thecollegeinvestor.com. Tons of resources here for you. Here's when Pell Grants are actually at risk. Losing federal student loans is really the first consequence here because losing Pell Grants is the next thing on the table, and it operates at the institution level. A school faces the loss of all Title IV aid, including Pell, if more than half of its Title IV recipients are enrolled in low-earning outcome programs, or if more than half of its Title IV dollars flow to those programs. Schools have ways to protect their eligibility. After the first year a program fails, an institution can voluntarily pull that program out of the direct loan program for at least 5 years, which shields it from the administrative capability penalties that threaten Pell. It can also run an orderly closure, stopping new enrollment while teaching out current students and keeping financial aid eligibility for the length of the teach-out, or 3 years, whichever one is shorter. The catch here is, a school that takes no action after the first failure forfeits both options later on. Yowza. Programs are exempt from the Pell Grant consequences if the institution hasn't participated in the direct loan program for the 5 most recent award years, or if it agrees to bar its students from borrowing direct loans in that program for at least 5 years. What programs are most impacted? That's the key question here. Early estimates from the department's Office of the Chief Economist offer a preview, you can dive into that PDF file if you want, of which programs stand to lose the most, though officials stress these are projections, not the official results that arrive in 2027. Across all of higher education, roughly 6% of programs and about 5% of Title IV students would fail the combined earnings test, but the impact is heavily concentrated, though. For-profit institutions account for the bulk of it. We wouldn't recommend going to those schools really anyway. About 35% of for-profit programs would fail, compared with under 4% at public and nonprofit schools, and roughly 55% of the estimated 650,000 students in failing programs attend one of those for-profit certificate colleges. So credential level matters too. Certificate programs are by far the most likely to have issues, with about 29% projected to fail, nearly 1 in 3 of their students enrolled in a failing program. Look, while bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs really pass most of the time. The fields with the highest failure rates cluster in personal service and arts-heavy disciplines, several of which would see like 90 to 100% of their certificate or associate students fall short of that earnings bar. We're talking culinary services, cosmetology, somatic bodywork like massage, drama and fine arts, religious studies, alternative and complementary medicine. All stuff that's kind of like my favorite things. It's kind of weird, but anyway, geographically, Florida, Louisiana, Tennessee, California, and Idaho show notably higher shares of failing programs than the rest of the country. Now, again, the caveat to that is cosmetology, culinary, all that type of stuff where it's very much tips-based, it might actually get a bump and pass, but only time will tell. Here's what this means for students and families right now. If you're weighing a degree or a certificate, the most useful change isn't the penalty, it's the disclosure requirements. Under the stats collection, institutions must report program-level data, including total cost of attendance, private student loan borrowing and completion versus withdrawal, with the first submission due October 1st of 2026. They're required to give you all the information, basically. That gives prospective students kind of a clearer read on what a program costs and whether its graduates actually earn a return. The most important thing to determining whether or not you should even go to school. Current students gain new warnings, too. Schools must notify both enrolled and prospective students when a program is flagged as potentially losing aid eligibility and must tell students how much lifetime Pell eligibility they have left every single time a grant is dispersed. This is all key data. You're not going to be left out in the cold. The practical risk for students is just disruption, inconvenience, because if a program loses direct loan eligibility, the college may be forced to shut down a program or it just block future enrollment. That move could also put the overall college at risk of closure. A program that closes leaves students to complete a teach-out or move elsewhere. Colleges also have a new option in 26-27 year, reducing the loan limits. Some colleges may be proactive and reduce the amount of money students borrow to prevent future issues. None of this impacts the 26-27 year, but families making multi-year plans should factor in that a program's federal aid status could change in 2028-2029. At the end of the day, though, the Department of Education is betting that tying financial aid to earnings, the rule pressures schools to cut programs that reliably leave graduates underwater and to bring costs down. If you're not going to earn a lot, why should I pay a lot, right? Over time, this would mean fewer borrowers stuck repaying student loans for credentials that didn't pay off. How many times, and maybe you've been in this, where you get a certificate or a degree, you don't earn enough, and then you end up getting a second job anyway, or changing careers altogether. It happens all the time. Anyway, that is our show for today. Just to give you a heads up of what's going on, if you want to dive deeper and stay in the know, follow, like, and all the things on social media at The College Investor. Type in those words, you'll find us. Thanks again for stopping by today. We'll talk to you again real soon.